and here's the thing: is there's like circumstantial. How do I describe this? Like in sociology, where it's like certain generations will have certain reactions to certain things, and it doesn't age well now, but it
Right.
is
Yeah, definitely.
that is a different time, different period. So long as people adapt to today, is kind
Yeah.
of
And I would say the same. Another band that was kind of like that was like the Meatmen. Like they're on the surface, they're just so offensive, but they're just doing it to like fuck with you. They don't actually hate like that. They're being a character, and you're supposed to hate that character.
right. But I would say that there's still like justified reason at like a race level, and this is always
Okay.
kind of my
Yeah.
my hierarchy where it's like when it comes to racism, even today that's not taken seriously. Whereas like I feel like gay issues have been taken a lot more seriously and are seen as more human as a result of like there are white people that are gay, and so people will take it more seriously as a result.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Whereas racism is so much harder to unpack, and like, um, there's bands like, well, we could get into Christian Death saying the N word, of course, right?
Right. Yeah. Sure. And the Dead Kennedys too. Yeah.
Right. So I think it's justified that people don't like it. Um, but then there's also bands I'm thinking of like Anal Cunt,
Yeah.
and they,
And that guy was actually an asshole.
yeah, exactly.
Whereas Roz Williams was kind of sexually and gender fluid, and and
He was just a little
was
oddball. Yeah.
yeah, right. And I think he wasn't saying that. He was saying that as part of the story, like as you know, again, like sort of like a character in his song. Again, like maybe you wouldn't choose to say that today, but it did definitely provokes conversation.
Right. I mean, I can't blame people even back then for disliking it, if that makes sense, because
Oh yeah, sure.
this goes back to what I said about the Ramones, where it's like, how can we trust a community if they continue to do those things? And you go to the Ramones, and if the guy's actively saying we don't want black people at the show, then suddenly it's not performance, it's not like a story, then it's like, oh, this guy means it. So how do I know that Roz Williams doesn't actually, you know what I mean?
Right.
He
I
could
mean, I guess we'll never actually know, but
right. We'll never act.
anecdotal evidence.
So that's why I can't blame people for being upset about those
I mean,
things.
are you upset about it?
I don't know if I'm upset about it. I just don't blame people for being upset about it. Do I listen to
Right.
a song? Sure, I listen to
Yeah,
songs.
I have the box set right
Yeah,
over here. Photograph
yeah,
by Edward Culver. I mean, and they were like teenagers when they did that. They were really young when they wrote those songs.
right. And I mean, I listen to a lot of things that are pretty, I would say, edgy and like not politically correct. I would say
Right.
political correctness is not wrong, but it's when you start treating it as like the law, then it's not great. But
Yeah, I have a
there's
lot of
yeah,
different, like opinions, and that's a lot of gonna be in my documentary too. Like a lot of like, well, that was the '80s, and it was a different time,
right. But
but also it was all in good fun. It's done to make you laugh. Like there was a context to it that you have to understand.
it's hard to understand those contexts, and again going back to the Ramones point, when you're not sure who is
Right.
joking and who isn't, and it's very easy to hide who is joking and who isn't. And I
Yeah.
would say like, a great example is like there was some rock band or some rock show where a bunch of these guys took a bunch of disco records, and this was racially motivated, and just started like slugging them on a baseball
Hmm.
field. And that's why it's kind of hard to document some older disco.
Hmm.
Um, and as a result of that, yeah, communities of color were like, okay, we don't want to get into these subcultures because they don't want us. They're actively
Yeah,
saying,
that's a
fuck
problem.
you guys. So when stuff like that happens, and then on top of that, if you are like the solo person of color at one of these shows and people are already looking at you weird, it's hard to differentiate between, are they just intrigued because they haven't seen somebody like me before, or are they saying, fuck you, I don't want you here?
Hmm.
And at that point, it becomes an issue of like, well, I need to just hold my ground. I need to be ready for if I'm going to get stabbed tonight or asked, where are you from? you
Is
know?
this like from personal experience or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so for sure.